Hi everybody, it's Jen. Welcome back to my channel, Hallmark Plus More, where we watch and talk about shows, movies, mysteries, Hallmark ornaments, and anything else that floats our boat. So today I'm going to be reviewing a Hallmark mystery movie. It is called Reality Bites. It is the next movie in the Hannah Swensen mystery series. And Allison Sweeney stars as Hannah. So I'm sure you've probably seen them before. I've seen all the other movies and I really love this cast and crew. So I'm excited to see this one. Anytime I watch a mystery movie, I'm always trying to figure out the whodunit, right? So I'm making notes. I know about red herring, so I'm trying to figure out like what's important and what's not important. But before I get into the review, I just want to say thank you to everybody who subscribes to my channel, likes my videos, leaves me comments. I appreciate you so much. If you have any discussion questions or comments about the movie or the review, definitely leave them below because I love interacting with you guys. So getting into this movie, I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. Like I said, I love the characters. The actors and actresses are so incredible. Barbara Niven as Dolores, she cracks me up. I just love watching her. And Victor Webster and Allison Sweeney, they've been in other movies together, and I just love their chemistry. And then, of course, I love the Norman character, Gabriel Hogan. He's great, too. So, there's always going to be that love triangle. But the movie starts out, you kind of see a man breaking into a house and stealing jewelry, right? So you're like, okay, is this going to be about a thief? But what I thought was interesting was he's already in the house stealing the jewels and the jewelry. By the way, he knows exactly where to go. It doesn't look like he's really searching. But he breaks the window after he's already in the house. So I'm like, okay, he gets in another way and he breaks a window on the way out. So I thought that was interesting. So that makes me think that he's like an experienced thief. And then this movie is about a famous chef who runs her own kitchen and has a TV show. She comes to film in the cookie jar. Her name is Connie Mack, and it's Connie Mack Kitchen. She's been doing it for a couple decades, and she's an author. She has her own recipe books. So this is like a really big deal that she's filming one of her, iconic episodes in the cookie jar. So of course the cookie jar has to shut down for a couple of days, but Hannah and Lisa, they're very excited because they get to help with the show. They get to help make the food, which didn't seem surprising because I'm sure that's the way it is on the Food Network. We're gonna bake a cake. Well, they already have to have a cake, fully made for the end, and then they have to have a cake as they're making it with you on the show. So I wasn't surprised that there was a lot of preparation, because when you think about it, it makes sense if you're doing food segments. But it looked like they were making all the food before Connie Mack got there, and she kind of came in late, and she kind of looked like, I don't know, kind of like a movie star. She comes in with this big coat, and her assistant's taking her coat off. She's wearing the big sunglasses. And I know it just didn't seem like she was, a famous chef or somebody coming in wanting to do their own show. It just seemed like she was some big shot $1 million movie star, coming in to star in a film. So I kind of was like, okay, does she just have a big ego? I know she's a renowned, chef, and she's been doing this for so long, but she didn't prep. She didn't do anything. Like, she literally came in, threw her apron on, and she was on the air in like 5 minutes. So I think Lisa and Hannah were kind of thrown off by that too, kind of that Hollywood image. Not that I'm judging. My channel is a judge-free zone. I personally don't know any celebrities in Hollywood, so I'm just saying that's the image it gives off, and she played it to the T. So I think they were kind of like, oh, they're always saying never meet your idols. Like, here they are idolizing her for decades, and she just kind of comes in last minute. And they make the food ahead of time. But remember, I said she has cookbooks. So like Hannah and Lisa, they make all their recipes. They have her books. So she corrected her like, hey, in the recipe, it says that you whip them, but you actually have to fold them over. And like, Hannah's like saying there was a correction that had to be done. And she just kind of I don't know how to describe it. She just kind of looked at her like, "Are you really questioning me? I'm Connie Mack." Like she didn't say that, but that was kind of what you kind of thought, like, "Ooh, okay." And I think Hannah realized it afterwards too. But yeah, I think, there was that. And before Connie comes in, Hunt, the producer, Hunt Bantry, comes in. He's the producer of the show. He talks to Hannah. He's the one who originally met with Hannah and called her to get it set up. And he's a really nice guy, but he's kind of smoothing everything over with Hannah. And the same time I told you at the beginning, we kind of saw that burglary. Well, remember Chad, Victor Webster, now that he's one of the regulars in the series, he's with the DA. So apparently, like Lonnie from the police department, who's dating Michelle, Hannah's sister. So I love Lonnie and Michelle. They are the cutest couple. But anyways, I digress. So they're bringing that case to trial. So there is a case called Lloyd Chasely. And apparently they have evidence that he created one of the robberies. But Chad, Victor Webster's character, is trying to get him convicted on all 13 robberies. So apparently, I told you when we saw it at the beginning, it kind of looked like not just an everyday thief. I mean, he looked like he knew what he was doing. Well, apparently he's done it 13 different robberies, so he is an experienced thief. But they only have DNA from one, so they can plant him at one robbery. They have other evidence, but they're circumstantial, so the only DNA they have is for one robbery. But Chad is trying to nail him for all 13. So that's kind of side by side. That's kind of going on while we're seeing this whole Connie Mack show. And something seemed off when I first met her because, like I said, I know she seemed a little too glamorous in Hollywood, but it just didn't. I don't know. It seemed like she was annoyed, didn't want to do the show, or something seemed off. So you later find out that she can't cook at all. Hunt, the producer, knows. So they kind of have this system with her showing up late. So she doesn't have to prep and prepare, and she just shows up right in time to go into it, and they prep everything beforehand. So you've got Evan. He's kind of like the food stylist. He prepares all the food, and he is a renowned chef in his own right. And then you have Hunt Banley, which is the producer. And like I say, he's real friendly and nice to Hannah. And since he's a producer, he's kind of smoothing everything over, telling her how everything goes. And then, I told you Hannah kind of corrected her with their own recipe. Well, during the shoot, she handed her food, and instead of taking it off the table, she actually spilled food on Hannah's head. And Hannah wasn't upset or anything. She's like, she expected me to catch it, and I didn't know. So Hunt's trying to smooth it all over, and that's when, Hannah really said, I could tell she can't really cook. Is that like a known secret that she's a fraud? So Hunt basically gives in, is like, yeah, she's a fraud. She doesn't know how to cook. My mentor, Buddy, is a renowned, brilliant chef. But he didn't think he would be likable on TV. So he discovered Connie Mack and kind of her persona and her energy. She's just so much of a better personality to be on camera. And Buddy thought a woman having the TV, the cooking show would attract more of a female audience. So really, you find out Connie Mack is a fraud. Buddy was the brilliant chef, and Hunt was his protege. So that's why he's the producer. But we later find out too, Hunt is the one that, that dies. We have to figure out who killed Hunt. And of course, Hannah finds the body because she always finds the body. But when Hannah comes in, the crew is all waiting outside because they have to come in at like 6 a.m. and cook all the food. So Hannah's like, why are you all waiting outside? Hunt has the key. And then she goes in and she finds him. But he is kind of hunched over on the floor, and he has a laptop sideways. So when she, turns the laptop over and sees him lying there dead, she notices that he's reading an article in the local paper about, the robbery case, the Lloyd Chasely case. So Hannah's like, does that have anything to do with it because you don't see a lot of blood. So you later find out he's poisoned. So now we're kind of going down all of these suspects, right? Connie Mack is a fraud. Hunt knows it. I think I think Evan knows it too. Because like I say, he prepares all the food. We later find out that he was very good friends with Buddy too, and Connie Mack tells us at one point, yeah, Evan kept wanting to be the producer too, and Connie Mack seemed to be real nice. At first, she seemed like very Hollywood and very, egotistical, but then as you get into the movie, you see kind of a softer side to her. And she says, yeah, I wanted to honor, Buddy's wishes, and Buddy's wishes was for his protege Hunt to be the producer. But Evan, talks about wanting to be the producer all the time, every, couple of weeks. And Connie just writes it off. She's not trying to be rude to Evan, but she's trying to honor Buddy's wishes, and that's what he wanted. So you're like, okay, well, there's motive for Evan because he's a chef on his own and he's kind of being belittled to just being the food prepper and the food stylist and cooking all the food beforehand when he really wants to be the producer. And apparently Hunt wants to do a lot of more modern dishes, and I think there was some clash there because obviously being the producer, he has the final say. And then you think, Connie Mack obviously has a motive too, but, you're kind of thinking of all the people that would have motives, and then you're also seeing what does the robbery have to do with it, right? Because he was killed that morning and he was reading the article. So then you find out a couple other things. You find out from the hotel staff that they reserved all of their hotel rooms last minute. So it's like, that's a lot for a big production crew. Like, why didn't they schedule this months in advance, right? I mean, when you're going to have a show and you've been doing a show for 20 years. So there's a reason why they came to Lake Eden last minute. And then Hannah finds out that the day they booked their hotel rooms was the day they announced the date of the trial, like the trial date, like the day the trial starts. So then Hannah's like, okay, that's weird. Maybe there's a connection. So there's somebody on the crew that wanted to be in town for this trial, this robbery case. And I guess Hunter found out about it because he was reading that article when he supposedly died. And they find out it was poison. So now they're trying to find out, like, how he got the poison or who poisoned him. But you see at the beginning when she goes to film in the cookie jar, he's trying all these recipes, right? Like Evan and everybody's cooking and they're like, Hunt, try this, try this. Because remember, he's a producer, so he makes the decisions. So he turns to Hannah and goes, yeah, that's one of the good things of this job. Like, I eat all the time. So then Hannah, of course, tells that to the police, like, he was eating food all day. Anybody could have poisoned him, right? So it's definitely interesting to kind of figure out, what the suspects are, because I'm like, okay, poison is typically a woman's, weapon. It looked like there might have been a struggle, but to me, it didn't really look like a struggle as much as he was kind of grasping. Like with poison, your shortness of breath. So I'm thinking he's knocking things over as he's like losing his breath, right? And I think in the end, that's kind of what it was, because they never really said there was a scuffle or a fight. But at first, when you see it, you obviously think maybe there was a struggle. But I think that's what it was once they found out he was poisoned. So, I mean, there's so much to think about. There was Connie Mack was holding her jaw. So, then they were like, well, maybe she got into a fight. And I'm thinking, no, red herring. It's not her. She probably just like, I don't know, had a cold sore or has some kind of tooth, cracked a tooth on something, because she didn't have a black eye or any other marking. So I'm like, okay, this is what they want you to think. And remember, if they pull a suspect in at the beginning of the show or early on, most likely it's not them, right? So I always feel like if I'm watching a murder mystery and I'm like, oh, they're a good suspect, and then 20 minutes later they all say it's them, I'm like, well, it's not them then. Like I gotta pick somebody who's not on their radar. So they're trying to find out, and obviously Hannah's baking at home. She can't go back in the bakery. Now it's a crime scene. Um, it's interesting as everything comes together. So like they're trying to figure out their suspect list. They think, it could be Connie Mack from blackmail. Because Hunt knew she was a fraud. He was poisoned. He was reading an article about the robbery case. Now he did have a wife, and she was MIA. It took days for them to notify her, so they were a little frantic because they don't want it to get out in the media and her to find out about her husband. But then you find out that she was kind of had issues. Their marriage had problems, and let's face it, all marriages have problems. So I wasn't really surprised by that. I know everybody just looks at the spouse always. But I was like, no, they keep talking about how they can't get a hold of the wife, and they've tried, and she won't return phone calls. And I'm like, okay, you're spending way too many minutes of this movie on trying to find the wife. So I don't think it was the wife. You find out she was on like a yoga retreat, which I guess, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know any celebrities. I've never been to Hollywood, but I guess that's common, or at least in the movie, they're making it sound like these, spa retreats and yoga weekend retreats are expensive and they're like off the grid. So she didn't know. But it was interesting that she never came to Lake Eden to identify the body. So I will say that was suspicious, but still not enough for me to suspect her. And Dolores she's hilarious. Barbara Niven is amazing. But she tries to help out. She's like, because she's worried because they're going for Jules. So she was actually genuinely concerned that before they caught him, that they were going to come after her. So they set up like a sting operation, right? And they're all loud about it, letting everybody know that she's going away for the night and she's going to leave her jewels at home. And they're trying to catch them in the act because Hannah thinks that, they're going to have another one. He has help on the outside. Lloyd, the thief, has some kind of help on the outside, and this person is trying to copycat his crime to get him off or something like that, right? So I thought that was interesting and very funny because Dolores is hilarious. So I do love that. I'm just trying to, and I apologize, I'm just looking at my notes. But yeah, so they do this sting operation, and you see Dolores leave, and she's got security cameras in her house, right? So I'm like, okay, she's going to look at the security cameras as she's leaving. And of course, you've got Hannah and Norman in the car watching, because as soon as she leaves, they're thinking somebody's going to go to her house. So before they do that, I'm like, okay. One thing that I forgot to mention, and I apologize. So they're trying to figure out and find out things about the robbery, right? Because I was telling you, Hannah thinks they're connected. They don't have any proof that they're connected, just that he was reading an article about the trial when he was killed. So, like I say, Hannah has to do this on her own because she can't really tell the cops with no proof. So she's like, how do we get people from the jail to talk? So they have this flyer, and it's Norman. He's going to do free dentistry on federal employees to this afternoon only. So all the jail employees are going in, and they're talking, and Hannah is there trying to be the dental assistant, and she's really just taking notes. So we find out somebody has been sending care packages to the jail And all of the people, all the guards know which ones are his packages. So Hannah was like, well, how do you know it's his? Fancy handwriting, no return address, almost always food. He says some cigarettes, because I guess he likes cigarettes, but mainly food. So I'm thinking, no return address, fancy handwriting, food. So now we think, yeah, it has to be related to, the hunt being poisoned. Because he's being sent food. Fancy handwriting, probably a woman. I think they want you to think Connie. But towards the end, like, I'm thinking through all the suspects and I'm crossing them all off. I'm like, yep, that's a red herring. Like the whole jaw thing with Connie Mack, nice try, but I knew right away that was a red herring. Evan, I know he's a renowned chef. They're like, well, who else would know how to poison somebody than a chef? They want you to think Connie, but like I say, we found that out that, it was just a tooth. She went and saw Norman and got it taken care of. So, she's a fake. She doesn't really know how to bake, so I wouldn't think she would poison because she's not good with food. So I mean, I'm thinking of all the things that it could be, right? And I'm just kind of singling everybody out. So at this point, the movie's almost over. And obviously, they're doing this setup of this, everybody knows Dolores is going to be out of town. So they're going to set up this copycat. And I'm like, okay, I got to figure out who the murderer slash copycat thief is, because there's only 10, 15 minutes left in the movie, and I know they're going to be in Dolores's house. So I'm like, okay, I know who it is. And they're watching the security video, and the security video goes out. So then, Hannah and Norman are like freaking out, like, we got to go to the house now. And Norman's like, well, where are we going to go? And she's like, well, we'll hide in her bedroom and we'll wait for them to show up. And I'm thinking, you do realize they're already there. I mean, if they cut the video feed, they're probably already in the house. But okay, let me just pretend with you, Hannah and Norman, that you got into the house before the thief. But yeah, so I mean, I wasn't surprised when they get to Dolores's bedroom and boom, there's somebody covered in all black, putting a gun in their head. I'm like, yeah, obviously. So that wasn't really anticlimactic for me. But it was actually, and as soon as I see the person, like cause that person is in black, I could tell right away. I'm like, yep, I'm right. That's who it is. And then of course you see them take off their mask, and it's, Louise, which is Connie Mack's assistant or costume, designer. I think she's more of a personal assistant, but I think they gave her a title of like costume designer because she helps her with all of her outfits that she wears. And she's with her all the time. I mean, they were in the spa talking to Dolores, and Louise was right there. So I'm thinking, okay, fancy handwriting, that's probably her, because there's not any other women in the show. I didn't think it was Connie Mack at all. I didn't think it was the wife. So I was like, who's flying under the radar that would be sending him food that would have nice handwriting? Now, we don't know the why at this point, but I did I did know that it was her. And like I said, it was. And you find out it's her father. So her father is Lloyd, the thief. So she was trying to help her dad not go down for all of them and kind of have a copycat, robbery in the same town that he's being tried to try to get him off, right? But she's the one sending him all these care packages. And since they do these Connie Mack Kitchen TV episodes all over the country, that's why the packages were from all over the country. That's why they were mainly food. That's why there was no return address. And that's why it was kind of fancy writing, because it was his daughter. So obviously, Chad calls Hannah, and Hannah picks it up and says, hey, Lonnie. So of course Chad's like, okay, I'm not Lonnie. And so he finds out where Hannah's phone is, and obviously they arrest her, and we find out that, she was trying to do that copycat to get her dad out of prison. So, it was a good movie. There was a cute scene where Chad had invited Hannah to see him in court, and so she saw him in court when he did his opening statement. So, I mean, I think that was kind of cool. I personally have never been to court to witness another trial like Hannah did, so I think I would be fascinated by that too. I don't know a lot of all of the laws and everything that would go about it, so I've done jury duty. Obviously, most of us as citizens have, but I understand the fascination of Hannah enjoying being able to have a friend and sit in court and actually watch him, do the opening argument. So I can relate. I think that would be pretty fascinating if I was Hannah. So I thought that was kind of cool that they showed it. And then at the end, Chad says, if you ever want to come watch me in court again, you can do that. And of course, Hannah says, I'd love to. And then Chad goes, and then maybe I could take you out to dinner after as like a date. So it kind of ends the movie with Chad asking Hannah out on a date. So definitely leave me, notes, comments, discussions, because I know this is going to be the new triangle, love triangle. You still have Norman, sweet Norman, and now, Cameron Matheson left, who I loved Cameron Matheson. I loved them as a couple, Mike. So I'm sad that Cameron Matheson is no longer in the movies. I love Victor Webster, though. They were in, I believe, the Reading Vale trilogy movies together, and I love them. They have great chemistry. So I love Cameron Matheson, and I loved him with Allison as Hannah and Mike. But obviously, you move on, and now she's got them. So I thought she would definitely get with Norman, and then they have Victor Webster. So I feel like Norman is still there as Hannah's sidekick, but I don't think they've really started dating, and now obviously you have Chad coming in the picture, so there's definitely still a love triangle there for Hannah. I personally loved Hannah's sister in the Murder She Baked movies, her other sister, but I love Michelle too. Like, I'm not complaining. The lady that plays Michelle, she's great. I just love it when both of her sisters are back. So this movie didn't have her in it. I hope in the future they come back and bring all three sisters and Dolores. Just having them all in the scene in the movie is just amazing. So I loved all the Murder She Baked movies. I loved all of the cops, the detectives, the police force. I loved everybody. So I'm a little sad that now the Hannah Swensons, looks a little different. I get why, because it was a book series and, you have to change. It's not Lake Eden, it's Eden Lake. Like, I understand they made the changes. I get all that, but I can still say I really enjoy the Murder She Baked mysteries and the entire cast of all of them. But I definitely enjoyed this movie. Anytime I do a movie rating, or anytime I review a movie, I always do my rating system, which I call the Gen rating. So anytime I watch a movie, I always kind of talk about what did I love, what did I dislike, or what I didn't like. Was the actors and the stories believable? Not necessarily the story itself, because sometimes it's not always believable, but did I believe the actors? So, could I really get away for the 2 hours of this movie and get into the world of Hannah and her bakery? And then the last thing is the feel, is my overall feel of the movie, how I felt the next day. So, you've probably heard me say throughout the movie, or this review, I've seen all of the movies, the Murder She Baked, the Hannah Swensen series. I love them all. I think some are better than others. I'm always trying to find out the whodunit. So when I do my Gen rating, you're going to get my highest rating if I didn't figure it out. So unfortunately, in this movie, I was like, yeah, it's Lois, or Louise. I'm not sure how that character's name is pronounced, but so I definitely thought it was great. The acting was great. I definitely believed it. Anytime I watch these movies, I'm in there. Like, I feel like I could just go right into the TV and I'd be at the cookie jar and, I'd be eating the cookies, and I believe all the characters. So I definitely enjoy it. It definitely gives me the feels, like I say, I feel like I can go into that world. Not much that I disliked about it. Maybe give us more suspects. I think that would be the only criticism I have, because for me, it seemed more obvious. Like, if it had to be, poison is normally a woman's a weapon. So, and then you had the fancy writing on the packages. So, I mean, I felt like it was only a matter of time before most of the people are going to figure out who it was. You might not know why, but usually you can figure out the who. So I enjoyed the movie. Please bring back more of these movies. I enjoy all the Hallmark mystery movie series. Some of my favorites are no longer. You do have some of the favorites that I do like. So keep them coming. I love Hallmark mystery movies. So not much, like I said, that I dislike. The only thing that I would say is make sure you have a couple more suspects so that I'm not eliminating them so quickly. But like I said, all in all, I thought it was a really great movie. I always look forward to her movies. So for this movie, my Gen rating, I am going to give it 4 gold crowns, only because I figured out who it was. So try to stump me and you'll get your 5 gold crowns. But for this movie, my Gen rating is going to be 4 gold crowns. I hope you enjoyed my review. If you have any questions or discussions, please leave them below. And until next time, I will see you then. Bye.